very dark man of Nigeria, made a video saying that the Hausa child has been subjected and conditioned by the political class to what? Abject poverty. Very dark man of Nigeria also stated and said that the Hausa child has been made not to be good at anything, but to be alamajiri, beggars, begging in the street. I saw that video and my heart broke for the Hausa child. And the question remains, how can Nigerians and Nigeria and the entire continent help liberate the Hausa child from the shackles of abject poverty? How is that possible? Is it money that they need? The last time I checked, the richest man in Africa happened to come from the ethnicity. So money is likely not to be their problem, because I tell you, even if you give $1 million to every Hausa child, they will still remain in abject poverty. Because what is poor in them is not their purse. As much as their purse is poor, what is poor the most is their mind. Akebelen. A river that forgets its source will dry. A tree without its fruit will cut short. The only way to help the Hausa child is to help the Hausa child with the knowledge of himself. Because historical injustice has been done on the Hausa child. Pay attention, Akebelen. Let the voice of the Akebelen educate you. The voice of the continent. You see, when you study the academic curriculum of the 54 independent countries in Africa, and of course I've studied them, there is something negatively associated with the curriculum or the syllabus of Nigeria. Nigerians are not taught history. They are taught government at most. But then when a teacher is teaching government in Nigeria, and they want to teach you the pre-colonial days of Nigeria, do you know what the teacher does? According to the textbook, the teacher identified the Igbo child and taught the Igbo child the pre-colonial days of the Igbo. The Igbo child is being taught about the Umuada, the Ezemo, the age grade. The Igbo child is being taught about the Aba women protest. The Igbo child is being taught about the Ekumeku movement. The Igbo child is taught about the knowledge of himself before colonization. What about the Yorubas? The Yorubas are being taught about the pre-colonial days. They are being taught about their laughing, about the Ogbeniko fraternity, about the Oyomesi. The Yorubas are being taught about the Ora Onaka Kamfo. They are being taught about the Oyo Empire and how uniquely they were alongside the Igbos, how unique they were. Other tribes are being taught. But when you come to the Hausa child, the teacher will not teach you whom the Hausa child were independently. They will teach you the pre-colonial days of the Hausas and Fulani, telling you that the Hausa child cannot be educated independently of who he was before the Fulanis. Pay attention. This topic is a very sensitive one because Nigerians are emotional people, and whenever a topic has to do with the northern part of Nigeria, you must be careful because there's a whole lot of propaganda engineered in that part of the country. But you must pay attention. The voice of Akebelen is about to teach. The Hausa child has been denied knowledge of who he was historically because the pre-colonial days that is being taught about the Hausa and Fulani begins from 1903 when Britain came and removed Muhammad Tahiru II and chased him to Bumi and unalive him. That is not the history of the Hausa child. If you must empower the Hausa child, you must empower him with knowledge of who he was before 1804 and 1808. Who was he before jihad? Who was the Hausa child before jihad? Teach him the names of his states. Teach him the names of his kingdom. Teach him his food. Teach him his identity. Let him know that his ancestors were not mediocres. The Hausa child must be taught and be made to understand that his ancestors were not beggars. His ancestors were not alamajiris. They were not with plates everywhere shouting Babi Allah. No. Let them know that the Hausa child, that they were kings and warriors. The Hausa child must be taught historically who he was before 1804. Let him know that his ancestors had a long history of trading spice and gold in a long distance of the Sahara Desert. Let him know that they were warriors. Let him know they were good in agriculture. Let him know that they were kings. And they were called Sarikin. And then teach him about the Sarikin Gobir. Teach him about the strike in Kano, the strike in Katsina, the strike in Kano, the strike in Zazzau. Teach him about his legend Bagajia. Teach him about Yunfa. Teach him about Amina wars. Teach him about his identity. The Hausa child must be made to understand that his ancestors were better than what he is today. He must be made to understand. Teach him not just 1903, but teach him 1804 and teach him 1808. But the academic curriculum will never do that. The educationalists in your countries will not do that because they fear of what the Hausa child will become if being empowered with the knowledge of himself. And because the Hausa child have not been empowered with knowledge of himself, he cannot grow. Because he cannot grow beyond who you are. You can't. It's impossible to forget your ancestors and grow. Because your ancestors will be ashamed of who you are. Because you have forgotten them. They believe it's out of cowardice. History will empower the Hausa child more than finance. Because when they understand who they were, they will understand their destiny. Akebulan, how many Hausa children know about the Akawara campaign of 1808? How many Hausa child know about the Battle of Kafitung Patu of 1804? How many of them knows about this? How many? You go to Gobir today, when you go to Nigeria, is there any statue of Sarikin Yunfa? None. None. So how would the people remember themselves? When they look at the water, what do they see? Did they see progress or did they see defeat? That is why they are going to be used. That is why they are going to be used, because they lack the knowledge of themselves. They lack the history of themselves, because no one has taught them. No one has taught them. So all they see is a man with a plate begging. They don't see leadership. They don't see kinship. They don't see loyalty. They don't see prestige. They don't see honor. All they see is begging and poverty, because they lack knowledge of themselves. Akebulan, a man who do not know where the rain start beating him will never know where his body dried up. If you want to help the Hausa child, you must empower him with knowledge. And a man tried. Your former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, built schools for the Alamajiri. But the mischievous political elite among them, who do not want them to have the knowledge of themselves, fought and kicked against Alamajiri schools, because the Hausa child must be made ignorant. He must be made ignorant. He must not be allowed to acquire knowledge, because knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave. But when you talk about this, people think you're a promoter of negative ethnicity. They say, oh, town crier, you want to divide the Hausa Fulani. Never! That's not the goal. No, that's not the goal. It is Shakespeare who said the deed is done and what is done cannot be undone. The Hausa and Fulani have exchanged culture. They have intermarried. So the essence of teaching this is not for them to rise and fight each other. No! But for you to liberate a man, you must give him truth. Truth! You must give him truth. That is where he will gain the knowledge of himself. Does not mean you want to divide, but you want to empower. You will continue to deceive yourself if you think the Hausa child does not need historical knowledge. He needs it. Only then can he be free. Because he has forgotten who he was. And because he has forgotten who he was, he will remain where he is, in abject poverty. And the political class will continue to use him. You might not change what happened in history, but it's your duty and responsibility to make sure that the next generation understand the glory of the Hausa past, and so they can understand their responsibility of shaping their future. Only then, and then alone, can they rise from the ashes of their past. Only then can they rise and become who they are. Because when you go to Awe, the Awe people have been taught about who they were before colonization. The same thing with Xhosa, the same thing with Zulu, the same thing with the Moash, the same thing with every ethnic group in Africa. Why is their own different? We cannot keep quiet. No, it is your duty now that you know to educate them. Don't say no, it's not your business, it's your business. As long as they are down there, you'll be down there. Because education is your ability to apply knowledge to change your life. It doesn't end there. And also change the life of those around you. Help the Hausa child. Help him recover to make Akebulan great. Because Akebulan must be great again. Akebulan. Long live West Africa. Long live East Africa. Long live North Africa. Long live Central Africa. Long live Southern Africa. Akebulan. Wisdom. Hiya! It's the principal thing. Hiya! It's the principal thing. Free the Hausa child. Free the Hausa child.